Welcome to LITE It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah M. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of LITE It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah M. I am very excited about today's episode, as I am every episode, but this one is just a little bit more special than the others because this month we are going to be talking about motherhood, and I have my family with me today. Two of my cousins who were co-authors in the book Women Who Persevere, Navigating Motherhood with Power and Grace, have agreed to join me today on LITE It Up so that we can talk about the joys of motherhood. So I have Wendy Anger, who is my cousin from Birmingham, Alabama, and Deeatra Johnson, who's also from Birmingham, Alabama. Just a little bit of the history. My grandmother and their grandfather were brother and sister. So that's how we're related. This is probably a long time coming because I should have had them on LITE It Up last year, but with the pandemic, it just didn't materialize. So couldn't think of a better time than to have them now, as we are in the midst of celebrating Mother's Day this month. So this month is dedicated to mothers. And so I am going to turn it over to Wendy and Deeatra so that they could just give you a little bit of their background and history. And then we're going to jump right into the conversation about how they have navigated motherhood, because both of them have two children. Wendy has two sons, Dee has two daughters. So I'm just going to stop talking. And Wendy, if you want to just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, we'll start with you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for having me, Aginah. About me. Well, I just start from, I am a registered nurse at St. Vincent's Hospital, and I work in the pain lab, and I'm over that lab at St. Vincent's, and also work, with my doctor and with patients and that kind of thing. And I was married for 16 years, and I was in an abusive relationship, mentally and physically. And because of the level of knowledge that I had, I thought this is what you're supposed to do. Although I didn't see that, I just thought, okay, I'm going to hang in there for the long haul. So, and then within that marriage, two boys came, and then I began to think about them. I did not want them to experience what I had. So, I divorced and raised two boys, and tried to be active in everything that they did, wanted to be a part of their life, and wanted them to be in as much as they wanted to be. I didn't want to just because my pocket might have been slim. I didn't want to stop them from doing anything. So I just kind of got them in different things. I just found out about different events that they could go to, and I did it. And now that they're grown and on their own, I'm just very thankful that I've not had any trouble out of them. I've not had to get any of them out of jail. Mm-hmm. So, and I had my family to help me along the way. So, yeah, I just want to say that, you can do this. I mean, if the confidence is in you, you can do it, and you can, and they will be men who are contributing positively to society. Yeah, just because I'm a single mom, it doesn't mean that they have to go fall along the sideways. It was I knew. Yeah.
And that's something that I think I want to touch on as we, continue our conversation, because that was part of the reason why I wanted to write this book, because so often you hear people suggesting, at least that was my experience, that single mothers who are raising boys in particular are part of the reason why we have so many issues in our community. So I definitely wanted to use the book as a way to dispel that myth, because that is not always the case.
That's right.
So Dee, go
Yeah.
ahead and tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Deeatra Johnson, and well, let me back up. Thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast. But my name is Deeatra Johnson, and as my cousin Aginah said, we are cousins from our grandparents being brother and sister. I do thank her for having me here today. I too am a single mother of two daughters, Aaliyah and Kia. Those are my two daughters. Well, Kia is the oldest. I should say her name first. She's the oldest, and Aaliyah, she's the baby. My oldest is 21 years old, and my youngest is 17. I am a banker. I've been a banker for the past 22 years. I work at Service First Bank in Birmingham, where I am a cash management sales assistant. And like I said, I've been in banking for 22 years. Single motherhood, it has its challenges, but through the help of God and family, I was able to navigate, and get on a path of, where, like, parenthood does not come with instruction. So, you gotta kind of learn it on your own and, figure out balance and everything. And I can say that I believe that I've raised two beautiful queens. Like Wendy was saying, I've not had any issues with them, no problems or anything, with the help of my family. They helped in a major way.
Okay.
So, like I said, single parenting, it has its challenges, but through it all, in the next couple months, my youngest daughter, she will be graduating from high school. So, in a few couple months or whatever, I'll be having an empty nest.
Yes.
Empty nest. So, my oldest one, she's in her junior year at Jacksonville State University, where in the beginning she wanted to major in nursing, but she did a little shift change. Now she wants to be a respiratory therapist. So she has one more year to go. So, I'm pretty excited to see, what the future holds for both of them.
Well, it's so funny. I was just thinking about, we both have Aaliyahs. So your Aaliyah is a year older than my Aaliyah.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
And I can tell you, I'm counting down too to being an empty nester, but I got a little bit longer. So both, one of the things that I want to talk about is, I think what I noticed both of you all stated in talking about just your background and your children, is that you both mentioned that you had your family who were involved. And of course, I'm sure that makes a tremendous difference, in terms of being able to raise children who are doing the right things and who don't get into trouble or, don't cause any issues, because you've got that additional support, your village. So can you all talk about, in the book, Wendy, I know you touched upon, you mentioned, of course, that you were married and you were in an abusive relationship. I think one of the things that's important to point out is that all of us come from families where marriage, I think, was probably put forth front and center for us. All of us, our parents, still married, and you all know my dad passed away almost 2 years ago, but my parents have been together for married almost 49 years, but have been together probably like 52 years, I think. So definitely over 50 years they have been together. You all's parents are still married. At any point in time when you, Wendy, were going through when you were married and you were going through your challenges. Do you think that you remained in your marriage as long as you did because of the fact that your parents were still married and you knew how important that was to be in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I looked at, and I was talking to somebody the other day about this. I looked at their marriage and I knew that that's what I wanted.
Mhm.
I saw how they did, and and they got along, and even in the part where they argued, it wasn't, it was good. It was like differences.
Mhm.
But the thing about it is I saw what they had, but they just, and I guess they just assumed that I knew what it took to get that.
Mhm.
I didn't have the tools in choosing the right one because I guess they just wanted to assume that you want to know. But I looked at it, I knew that's what I wanted. And like you said, our family's long range marriages, and that's what I wanted.
Mhm.
However, my limited knowledge on what to look for, looking at his family, looking how he handled anger, looking how he did things. I didn't do that. I just saw that he was a man with hair on his face, and I thought, oh, I got me a man. But you have to instill in your children from very little, starting at 7 maybe, or higher,
Mhm.
what it is that marriage takes, or what it is that you got to be a whole person in order to attract somebody who is whole. Because otherwise you're gonna look at all of the surface things and not make a right decision, which that's what I did because I thought I knew. And I mean, grew up in the church, and looking at them, you just assume, but it takes teaching. And so, yes, from looking at our families, I thought, yeah, that's what I want, long range marriage. And I stayed trying to make that work. But you have to have two people agreeing to work together.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's definitely the case because it takes two to be married, just like it takes two to have children.
Amen.
So
Yeah.
you cannot be in a marriage by yourself. And
No.
I had that experience as well. Now, Dee, for you, your parents, they've been married, I know it's over 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be 56 in June.
Okay.
56 years in June.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you grew up in the church too. And
Right.
your dad was a deacon in the church, right?
Minister.
He's the
Minister.
assistant
The
pastor.
assistant
Yeah.
pastor. Okay. That's okay. So tell me, is
Ooh.
yeah. So how was that growing up? And you talk about it in the book. You talk about, in your chapter, throughout just your experience with being a single mom and how that may have been looked upon by people in the church. How did you feel when you were,
Yeah.
going through your pregnancy and during that time, being pregnant with Kia?
hmm Yeah. Well, I got pregnant with Kia at age 21.
Mm-hmm.
So I was still fairly, trying to find my way in life. I had already started college at that time. Just trying to navigate, and then boom, I end up pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, my dad, he's still the assistant pastor of the same church that we attend today. And back in the day when someone had gotten pregnant out of wedlock, they would have the woman, for whatever reason, to stand up in front of the church and say, "Hey, I'm pregnant," but the father was nowhere to be found. However, when I found out I was pregnant with Kia, I didn't have to go through that,
Amen.
but it was just the fact of people knew that I was pregnant, and people knew who my father was. And they were like, she's a PK, meaning preacher's kid.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like any other child. And, just having to deal with, being labeled as a PK, and now I'm carrying a baby out of wedlock, and people looking at you funny, people saying stuff. And it was hurtful, it was hurtful because, you like, okay, who else I mean, just because you got pregnant out of wedlock, everybody else may be sinning another kind of way, you know, a different way than what I am. But it was like they were magnifying being pregnant out of wedlock. And that just put me in a different frame of mind. And I was like, oh, okay, you know. So, you know, that I kind of like pushed it to the side. And then a couple years later, boom, pregnant again. You know, they are like 3.5 years, 4.5 years apart, age difference. And they were like, oh my God, what's really going on with her? You know, but this time I learned how to stand up on my own 2 feet and, you know, and get them told instead of them trying to get me told. You know, I knew then, you know, well, your sin, like I said, is you may be sinning a different way, you know, but just because I'm got pregnant out of wedlock, that doesn't make me any less than who I know I am, you know. So the second time I stood up for myself. So, like I said, with my father being an assistant pastor, that did bring on, you know, challenges when I got pregnant out of wedlock. But like I said, the second go around, I just stood up on my own 2 feet.
And you also had the support of your parents too.
Right. That's
and
right. And family.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It is something, although we don't share the same religious faith, I can certainly identify to being considered a PK,
Right.
and you are held to a different standard because you cannot do any wrong at all. And I was laughing to myself when you were talking about, although as sad as it is, to as young women to be forced to stand up before the church, you know, to say that you're pregnant, right? I was thinking about how different things that I may have done, like when I was in college, mostly when I was in college, it was cast, you know, forth amongst the congregation on a Sunday. It was discussed. Like you couldn't do anything without someone knowing, you know, it, and like you said, people holding you to a different standard, yet all of us have sinned and will continue to sin as long as we are on the face of the earth. I think we all strive to live an upright and righteous life. However, you know, one person's sin can't be considered, you know, worse than another. You know, so I'm glad that you were able to find your voice and stand up for yourself, and not have to go through that. Because can you imagine though, and I don't know what you experienced, but I can only imagine, you know, having to go through that, like the mental anguish that you must have felt when you were going through that. I mean, pregnancy is hard enough, but then having to deal with what people are saying when you don't know what's going on behind their closed doors.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yep.
So as you all have raised your children, I mean, because essentially you all have, well, Wendy, you have adults, but and Dee, you have adults too. Like I said, I'm trying to get in that number. I got 4 more years to go.
They'll pass by so quickly.
Quickly. What would you all say has been the greatest reward, I guess, to being mothers and going through the experience? Because of course, I'm going to speak for myself, but sort of speak for you all too. I'm sure growing up, you know, we all had this certain image of what we thought our lives would be. And things don't always turn out the way we plan. So what would you say has been the greatest reward with your experience raising your children? And then what has been the greatest challenge? And either one of you, whoever wants to go first.
Okay. Well, the greatest reward I would say is going back to our foundation. We grew up in a Christian home, and just watching my parents, you know, and how they instilled in me and my siblings, you know, as far as going to church and, you know, doing what's right. And, and I turn around and I teach that to my children, as they're coming up, And so, of course, we as parents, we don't always get it right all the time, so it's not so much of the children getting things wrong. We get things wrong as well, So my greatest reward thus far is now that they are women and they, have reached the age of accountability where they, they make their own decisions, but I'm still there to guide them along the way. My greatest reward, one of them I would say, is when I see them and how they react, what I instill in them, I can see it, so I know my labor was not done in vain, as far as being a mother to them and guiding them, the right path and everything. I could see me and their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, I can see them in their life, even the decisions, they may not make the right decisions, but like it's a passage in the Bible that says, train up a child in the way that they will go. And when they depart, they will not grow, old from. So it's like, even if they err in life, whatever I instill, whatever their grandparents instill, whatever their aunts, uncles, cousins instilled in them, they're going to hear that voice at some point and it's going to drive them back on the right path. So I would say just seeing my fruits, seeing the fruits of my labor, I'm seeing them manifest, so that's one of the great rewards of parenthood.
Okay. What about you, Wendy?
Like Dee, I mean, when you're raising them, everything is going so fast. They're in school, they got activities, and you're trying to feed them, and you're instilling these basic life principles in them, and you're teaching them who they are so that they can have a foundation. And when they go out there, they can't believe everything somebody else say about it. This is who you are. And so the reward for me is seeing them be awesome men of God, and also that they're making a difference for good. Like my son Trey, he works all the time. Like you said, they don't get everything right, but I see the future. I see him, and when he speaks, how he commands the room, authority of the rooms. Like we have like Wednesday night service sometimes, and he'll come there sometimes. And they allow them, the youth, to come and say things. And when he stand up there, I'm like, who is this? I'm so thankful. Yes. Because you see it, like Dee said, you train them up. They might go off somewhere for a little while, but they're gonna come right back because you're right. They hear the voice of you when you're instructing them. And like my youngest, and then this is something strange too. Like you have two different children in the same household, they're gonna be totally different. I mean, my youngest son, he is like always from 10 years old, I'm gonna be a doctor. And every strive is going in that direction. And here he is, we're waiting to hear that they have accepted him in medical school. But it's just an honor to see them be just men who are does society good. Yeah. And men who can stand on their own, that they don't have to believe everything somebody says, about them. Like I'm talking about all the things that's been happening in the world amongst races and that kind of thing. I'm so thankful that my boys, I have told them who they are. So it doesn't matter what somebody else say about them. They know who they are. Right. And it just gives me such it's so rewarding to see that I finally get a chance to see, even though when you're doing it, don't seem like nothing going in, but when you see them flourish and you see them making a difference for good, it rewards you. I love seeing them do that. And like my cousins, when I'm seeing Leah and Kim, when I'm seeing your children do things, it's just awesome. And that's very rewarding.
I think if we can, as mothers, figure out how to get through this parenting, because of course when you're going through it, like you said, you don't think that they are receiving anything that you are trying to teach them. I think that's the most frustrating part. And then I can tell you for myself, there's this one child in our house that I'm just like, Lord have mercy, because
Yeah, yeah.
I am
Lord have
trying to
mercy.
parent me, and ooh,
Yes,
mm.
yes, yes.
And
Strong-willed.
yes, and and I think about, wow, is this what my parents went through? Because you want to forget some of the
Yes,
things that you used to do and say, but
yes.
my youngest, I tell you the truth.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's something about those younger ones. I'm believe that it's something about the younger kids, because not to interrupt your
Yeah,
conversation,
no, no.
but like we were saying, it's always, if you have more than one child, it's always a different one in the bunch, and I say like the bold one, and
Mhm.
that's for me, that's the baby, she's the bold one. She just, you have to kind of put your foot on her neck, sometimes, but she's the bolder one. I guess she got it from me because I'm the bolder one out of five of us. So
Yes.
I'm the bold one. So I kind of can, but I still have to put her in check,
Mhm.
at
Yes.
times. So
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I tell my girls, because I tell them all the time. I said, I think God is trying to pay me back because He gave me two. But I tell them all the time. I said, "Oh, you gonna get yours," and I can't wait to just sit back and watch.
Wait.
It's coming.
Yes,
Yup.
it
It's
is.
coming.
Yes, it is. There is something, Wendy, in your chapters. Well, you guys did something. I had you all write a letter to your younger self, and we'll kind of come to that. Um, but there's a quote at the beginning of your chapter that says, "If I am not good to myself, how can I expect anyone else to be good to me?" And that was by Maya Angelou. And that, I'll just tell you, I selected that quote to start your chapter because listening to your story, um, I was in awe, I guess, with everything that you went through. And you tried to stay in it as long as you could, but then one day it was like you came to this realization that things weren't going to get better, but you had to be better, not only to yourself, but for your sons. Because I think what stood out the most for me with your story is that you did not want your sons to think that the environment, the life that they were living, was something that was normal. You wanted them to understand the importance of how a relationship should be and how they should treat women. What was I guess, that moment where you came to the conclusion that you had to be better to yourself so that you could be better to your boys?
Okay, so one of the things that the whole time while I was in the marriage, I saw myself go from a confident woman to a non-confident woman because I put so much stock in what he said about me or how he felt about me. So everything became what he thought or what he said. Do I need to wear these kind of earrings, or do I need to put this lipstick on? Or he said I was this. So what the turning point was, and it took some years, it may took some years, was I had to realize who I was, that God thought of me as a diamond in the rough. He thought of me as something treasured. And so, and I know that sounds cheesy, but that's what turned the corner for me.
Mhm.
I knew that I was somebody special, that what he was doing was not God's best for me. And so I started, it wasn't like I didn't leave right away. And I started hearing the word about who I was. I started hearing about being confident in who I was and seeing other people rise above what it was. So I started getting educated about who I was. I started getting educated about um, how can I, and that I can do this without him. Because you always think you got to have him,
Yes.
listen, I love me and want a husband. I believe the right one coming along, but
Mhm.
I wanted a husband to love me. I wanted to know what it really felt like to be loved. And I knew this wasn't love. And so when I started realizing those things, I started building up a confidence in who I was. And so the little things that he would say was, he would say, I want a divorce every now and then. So it came that one day. And all I knew is something switched inside of me. And when he asked me for it for that last time, I said, okay, I'm gonna give you what you want. And it shook him by surprise. It took him by surprise. I said, I'm gonna give you what you want. I said, you've been asking for it, I'm gonna give you what you want. And then, by then, he wanted to go to counseling and things like this. I said, no. We've gone to counseling. We've gone here, there, everywhere. We're not going to counseling right now. I'm gonna give you what you want. So it was that point. And even at that point, I knew it was something that I couldn't do it right then. I had to have a plan, but I just told him, I'm gonna give you what you want. And I had a plan on how I was gonna get away from him because I didn't want to argue with him anymore. I didn't want to fight with him anymore. And so as soon as he left, I took everything I could get out of that house, put it in my car. Me and my boys never looked back. I never looked back at, it was a brand new home and everything. I was like, nah, I ain't looking back. But I had to have the confidence that I was going to be taken care of, that I knew that God was going to supply my needs. I had to have that confidence to know that. And knowing who I am, I would tell everybody, identity is everything. Yeah. Those people who are depressed and oppressed and all this kind of stuff and letting all these things get to them, they don't know who they are. They don't know their identity. So it's discovering who you are and being confident in that person that you are. Mm-hmm. And it will give you a courage that you didn't know you had. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. And of course, I'm over here chuckling because we are definitely cousins. Because it must have been married to similar folks. Because my ex-husband asked me if I wanted a divorce, and I said, yep, I sure do. He was not expecting that answer. I mean, like you said, I'm gonna give you what you asked for. And so it's amazing how the tune changes when you give them the answer that they were not expecting. And I also did something similar. I packed up everything too and then said, hey, we're moving. Bye-bye.
Bye, Felicia.
I wonder where you got that from.
I don't know.
That's something that we both have share that similarity.
That's right.
I don't know. And then Dee, with your chapter, we started off your chapter with the following quote: your life is your story, and the adventure ahead of you is the journey to fulfill your own purpose and potential. That quote was selected because I thought about that when you finally realized that you had to stand up for yourself and that you were not going to allow your circumstances to determine your future. So can you just kind of talk about how you made the decision that you were still going to, because you finished school, you didn't allow your circumstances to determine what was next for you.
Yeah. Well, of course, I would say what the changing or the determining factor of that were my children. A lot of times I would tell them that, their peers, some of their peers are not as blessed as they are. Some of their peers, parents, they come from single parenthood, and some of them depend on government assistance to make it through life. And I was like, I'm not going to do that, because I have the ability to get up and go to work every day, and provide for my children. It was a struggle at times, with one income coming in, it was a struggle at times, but we made it through, Mm-hmm. So just the thought of my daughters, I didn't want them to think that, well, my mom had us, out of wedlock, then we're going to depend on the system. We're going to depend on the government system and all of that stuff. I didn't want that, even though I probably could have applied, for some type of assistance or whatever, but that wasn't going to be. So I said, well, let me, keep striving. let me go and enroll in someone's college or whatever, and because we're gonna make it, So going back to when I was pregnant with Kia, I had just started college, a 2-year institution, Lawson State Community College. And after I had her, of course, I had to sit out. I think I only sat out for maybe 1 or 2 semesters. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not going to get relaxed in this. Let me get back up and get started again. So I was able to graduate in 2002 with an associate's degree in computer science. So I did, get that out the way. And here comes Aaliyah, So I had her or whatever. I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep on until I get this bachelor's, master's, or however far God wants me to go. Mm-hmm. So I went on and went to Strayer University, where I got my degree or bachelor's degree in human resources. Mm-hmm. So just, keeping on, like I said, I, got my, went on to college and graduated and got degrees. So I would say my girls, they changed the tone in that, because we were not going to be a statistic, as far as, and I'm not knocking people that do that, because sometimes that's just what they have to do, But I wasn't going to be a statistic in our household, because I didn't want my children to pattern themselves and say, okay, this is how we make it. No, you got some potential, you got potential there. So that's why I'm happy that they made the decision. And I wasn't going to press school on them, because, quite, naturally is, once you graduate from high school, then you go to college. Then you graduate from college, you get married and have kids or whatever. But sometimes that plan is not that, And I wasn't going to press school on them. I just wanted them to make a decision on their own. So I'm glad that, my oldest, she's a year shy of her degree, for a respiratory therapist. And my youngest one, she's going to follow in her footsteps, going to the same college or whatever. Her major is not clear as of yet. Mm-hmm. But I do know she will be going to Jacksonville State University as well. So okay. I would say, my daughters, they changed that tune. They changed the tune of that.
And I think that's also just a testament to your upbringing, because I know your parents did not raise you to be one to just sit down and, not be productive. So right. That was definitely instilled. I mean, in our family, everybody is productive. You got to right. do something. And it's not to say that, everybody has to go to college and get degrees, because that just may not be your journey. But right. being productive members of the society, I think, is definitely one thing that, as our family prides itself in being and being good to other people. I don't know why my grandmother, she just popped in my mind where she would say, it's just nice to be nice.
Yeah.
But that's just how I think we were all right. raised. And although I wasn't raised in Birmingham, but I certainly spent enough summers down there where it was my second home. So I think even having that Southern mentality and spirituality in terms of just how you just do good. Family is first, you treat people like you want to be treated, and good is going to come back to you. So right. Dee, you something that stands out in my mind also about your experience, and you talk about this in the book, and I think this is something I am still I'm the oldest. Wait,
yeah, you are.
We're the same age, but I'm only the oldest between the two of us by right. But the one thing that I've been divorced for 8 years, and I cannot share in my story that I have a good co-parenting relationship. But you, my dear, I tell you, people gonna have to take note of, and when they read your chapter, because you are very unique in that you have a very good co-parenting relationship with Kia's father, but also with her stepmom. And even the stepmom is not even really the title that Kia uses. So I even appreciate that too. Although I know sometimes we as mothers, as the biological mothers, can sometimes be a little um, special. I can't even think of a good word to say besides special.
Let's just say different
Different.
sometimes.
Yes, different. Because I can remember when my ex-husband, I guess he was engaged, I don't know, but he's not married. So neither one of us remarried, but he was supposed to remarry. And but anyway, I remember her telling my children that my children will call, if you are like all of my friends, they won't call them by their first names. They know they can't do that. Everybody is auntie and uncle. And then you can say their first name, but you got to put a title in front of it. And that's just the way my children were raised. So when they met their father's girlfriend, they put Miss in front of her first name. So I won't say her name to protect her identity. But I remember that they asked her when he told them that, they were going to get married. And they said, so what are we supposed to call you? And she said, bonus mom. And they came home and told me that.
Uh-oh.
I was like, no, what's the bonus? I was confused. This is not what we're doing here. So we had to have a little conversation. We had to have a conversation about a lot, but needless to say, how do you, and I will admit for myself, I at that time was very protective of my children. And as I explained to her, like, I need to know what type of parent you are, because there were some things that transpired that I personally thought was inappropriate. Like, we didn't, my children, when their father and I got a divorce, to show you how, I guess, sheltered they thought, and they were 8 and 5, I think, but they thought that in order for people to have children, that you had to be married. So they didn't understand, like, a girlfriend and a boyfriend, they could have children. That was foreign to them, because they didn't see, nobody in our family, our immediate family, everybody was married. So they didn't understand that. And my ex-husband had moved her into what was our family home, and they were not married. So that presented a problem for me, because that's just not the values that I was trying to instill in my children, that we don't do that. You don't live together before you get married. When they're adults, I guess they could do whatever they want to do, but that wasn't how I was raised, and that wasn't how I was planning to raise our children. So that I had a huge problem with that. And I expressed my concerns. So we obviously didn't have to get to the point where we were co-parenting with the stepmother, but can you kind of enlighten the audience on that particular journey for you? Because I'm just fascinated by it, and I think it shows maturity.
And you said the key word, you have to mature to that point. Now, mind you, it wasn't always peaches and cream in the beginning. When I found out I was pregnant with Kia, he did want me to have an abortion, because he said that he wasn't ready. I think at that time he was getting ready to go into fireman school. So he was trying to, get that established and everything. And I told him I wasn't going to have an abortion. That was just that, But after I had Kia, of course, we weren't together. He ordered a paternity test. And I'm like, in the beginning, I was like, why do you want a paternity test? But then he went and told me that, something happened to him in the past where this girl said that this was his child, but then later on he determined that was a lie. So I understood, why he wanted a paternity, test for that matter. But I would say maybe when Kia was maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months, that's when he went on and, he got a girlfriend. And I'm like I was raised in a home where the parents were together, they were married. So in my mind, I'm thinking, we're going to get married, we're going to raise this child by ourselves. And then his parents were married too. So I'm like, okay. So I can remember one night he came and got Kia, or one day he came and got Kia. And I was calling him to tell him, look, it's getting late, you need to bring Kia home. So when I was talking to him, I heard this lady giggling in the background. Now, mind you, my baby is still little, she's still a baby. I'm like, who is that? And when I found all of that out, that's when excuse my language, hell broke loose. It broke loose.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? So we just going back and forth, And it kind of died down for a little bit. And I think it was Kia's first birthday, maybe 2 years. She was 2, maybe 1 or 2. And I had her birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. And guess who he brings to the party?
The girlfriend.
I was like, did I tell you to bring her?
Oh,
I remember me telling you to bring lady. I don't even know her. And you know how we are, and something just came in my spirit and calmed me down, and she just came over there. She was just so nice. She was talking to me and, and everything. And I was like, okay, something don't seem right, but it is right, because I'm like, okay, what's going on right here? So Kia, she was a very sickly child in the beginning. I'm gonna say maybe the first 2 years after I had her, I was always in the emergency room with her. And I can remember this particular day, she stayed with her dad at this time, and they had her that night, and she had an allergic reaction to, she had this thing called RSV, something going on with her respiratory. So they had to end up rushing her to the hospital or to the emergency room this particular day. And I was on my way heading to work, and she had called me. She was like, look, Dee, I'm heading to the children's hospital. Kia had an attack. I need you to meet me to, So I'm like, okay. So of course I took off that day and I headed right on to the children's hospital. And so we're just sitting in the waiting area or whatever, waiting for them to call Kia back and, just having casual conversation, just like 2 grown women, And I can remember an officer came and he was like, okay, which one are you, the mother, and which is the stepmama? And I'm like, well, I'm the mother. And then she was like, I'm the stepmama. He was like, you know what? Y'all have a unique relationship. Now, I can't tell you when that changed. I don't know. I don't know. But he just came to us. He's like, y'all have a very rare relationship. And ever since then, it's just, I could call her my best friend. I can call her my best friend. And I've always told her dad that, if something was to happen to me, I know she'll be in good hands, because I tell him all the time, he chose the right one, but he didn't choose the better one,
Okay.
but I'm just,
Okay.
I tell him that all the time, but we have a very, very good relationship. Now, Aaliyah's dad is a little bit different. He wasn't in her life, he wasn't consistent. But thankfully, my dad and, her other grandparent on her dad's side, and, my brothers and all of the men in our family, they took up that fatherly stance or whatever. And I can say now, and I think you probably read my post yesterday on Facebook about how my sister is going to be accompanying her to Houston. Well, he's on his 3rd wife. He's on his he's on his 3rd wife. So, but I guess I would say number 3 is a charm. I was able to meet her. She did fly into Aaliyah's. It was a senior night or something she was having during football season a couple of months ago. And when I met her, we just clicked.
Okay.
I've always said, we can't go back in the past. It's nothing I can do to change it. And I did let her know as she was coming up, if you decide to have a relationship with her dad, that's on you.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, she came and told me that during spring break, she wants to go and visit her dad and his wife or whatever. I'm like, okay, but like I said, when I met her, we clicked, so I'm gonna just say that was just a God ordained thing because, at some point my prayer for him was that he did meet someone that was suitable for him. So I'm excited, she's gonna be able to be with him, and maybe this will be the start of a brand new thing, as she, develops a relationship with her dad and he develops a relationship with her. So she will be flying out to Houston in the next 2 weeks to, just see how that goes. So,
and of course, Auntie, the second mom, she's stepping in to for Leah's trip. Well, aunties are wonderful anyway.
They are.
So
they are.
now, okay, the other thing that the three of us have in common now is that none of us, well, so Wendy, I don't know, how long have you been single now?
Oh, since 2003. It's a long time.
That's a long time.
It's a long time, but I'm telling you, um, I do believe that I'll meet that person, and that he has to be somebody that God has appointed, because in the time that I've been single, gosh, I mean, I have, God has just been grooming me, and I'm okay, right now. I do want to experience real love before I leave this earth. I'm going to experience that. And so, I've just been enjoying myself. I've been traveling. I've been doing everything that I want to do. I am not unhappy, and I'm not desperate, and I am not, just trying to go get anything. I'm not that at all. I thank God for where I am, because it took a growth process. And in the natural, when I look at it, how long it's been, you could get frustrated, but then time is not time to him. And I got a long life to live, and I'm enjoying my life. So yes, it's been since 2003. And yeah, I've dated and some in between there. But here's what happens when you Aginah, this is what happens when you, as long as you stay single, the more you get to know you. Yes. And the more you get to know that you don't have to tolerate anything to come your way. And the more you are you can discern what's real, what's not real. And people will say you pick it, but it's not that at all. It really is. You don't want to get stuck in that same predicament by just rushing into something, or something that's not right. And so that's what happens. The more you get, and I do believe I've seen it happen though. I've seen women long period of time, and then boom, there he is, and it's the right man for her, and I've seen it happen. So in the meantime, I'm just going to enjoy my life and have a good time doing that. Like I said, we can't look at it in natural. We can't look at it in natural. You have to keep on going. Time is just a number. So
that's right. So yeah. Dee, what about you, ma'am?
Well, now going back to what we talked about, in the beginning, how we were raised with our parents being married, and I'm the only one left out of my siblings who is not married, never been married or whatever. Now, as a little girl, we have this dream, I want to be married. And I thought that my life would kind of be like a resemblance of my mama. I think she married like at 22, 23. Well, look at me, 21, I did the reverse, pregnant or whatever. But now when my girls were little, I did, date or whatever, but I was just careful of who I brought around them. And being that we nowadays, well, back then it used to be, you need to watch your girls or who you have around your girls, but now you got to watch your boys too. You know how you have around who you have around your boys.
Right.
So it was a way for me. Do I want to marry? Yes, I do. I when they were growing up, I just didn't want to bring another man over them, or a man. I ain't gonna say another man, but a man over them. I don't want that because I don't like drama. Really, I don't. And and another thing, I didn't want them to feel like he was taking me away from them. I didn't want that to be. But now, I am dating. I keep that on the DL. I don't expose it. I don't go out flashing it or nothing like that until it's time.
Right.
The only people that know is, my family, they know. Some of my friends, now y'all know. Well, now everybody probably know now that they just don't know the who in it. The family, they know, and he's a very, very nice guy. We've been knowing each other for, I'm gonna say maybe 10 years, but we dated, for about maybe 2-3 years now.
So yeah, previously, and you're dating again. Have you ever dated him?
Yes, we've talked a couple of times, and then it just wasn't the right time, and then we come back around full circle. So yeah,
I think look, I don't know the person personally, but we're gonna talk offline.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, he's good people. And we always, girls, we look up to our dads, and we're like, I want somebody like my dad, or, and like what Wendy was saying, a lot of times people think you're being picky. I'm like, this is just what my prayer is. I'm not saying I want somebody exactly like my dad, but having the characteristics that my dad have, because mama, she will quickly tell you they broke the mold in that. But I just believe it's still some good men out there. They may not be to that caliber, but it's some good men out there.
Yes.
So hopefully, once I get this last one settled in and do what she needs to do, hey, who knows? We'll see.
Well, look, I keep saying, because I've been divorced for 8 years, and I feel like the longer that I am divorced, the longer that I'm single, I mean, and it's not like I haven't been in a relationship. So I was in a 5-year relationship, and I do feel like I know that I've had an opportunity to experience what I feel like was true love. And part of that, I think, has also been the challenge that I've experienced, because I know I was treated very well in those 5 years. But, sometimes people are taken from you too soon. Yeah. And so I couldn't experience like that final step to marriage. Yeah. But I definitely, when I'm dating men, because I will date.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
Ain't nothing wrong with it.
I'm not sure I understand.
Wrong with it.
I do, kind of compared to when you've been treated a certain way and you're looking for somebody who can measure up to what you're looking for. So, and I've been told that I'm picky. And I'm like, well, I feel like I deserve a certain type of man in my life. So if that means that I'm picky, then I guess I have to be picky. But I will say too, Dee, that in my mind, I feel like once Khaleesi's gone and she graduates from high school, then, maybe that's when that time will be, because I also feel like I don't want to be in a situation where my children may feel like you said, that they're no longer the priority or important. Because I mean, for 8 years, I've been doing this by myself. So I recognize that it might be a little bit of a challenge for me to try to balance,
Right.
that in that way. But honey, your little cousin put me on blast yesterday, and just out the blue. Now I'm minding my own business, not bothering her. And said, Mommy, so are you ever gonna remarry? And I said, when the right person comes along, then I will. She said, well, can you hurry up and get the right person?
Wow.
Because I don't want to live in the house with you by myself next year. It'll be boring. And I'm a step sibling.
Oh my, she really did put you on blast.
Yes.
She did.
And I said, well, I don't want to live at home with you by myself either. So
Wow.
she has put me out there. I said, you don't want me to wait until like you graduate from high school? She was like, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah, you got a strong one over there.
Yeah. And I'm not doing a good job of having prospects, because the one person that I was dating that I really, really, I liked them. My children, so it's the girls who are always in my business. My son, he,
Oh yeah, they
don't really, he pays attention, but he won't say much. But the girls were like, well, you so busy talking about you all are just friends. How long you got to be friends?
Oh my goodness. Wow. They're paying attention.
So I told them that friendship is the foundation to any relationship. Right. So it's important for me to be friends with the person, because I feel like when you are in a committed relationship, I mean, it's not going to be wine and roses every day. That's so right. If you have that foundation of friendship, then the times when you are a little frustrated with that individual, you could think about why you are really with them, because you were friends first.
Right. Right.
So
that's advice.
Yeah. So we shall see. So let me ask you all as we kind of wind down. And again, I thank you. I'm glad that we were able to just kind of chit chat just about our experiences. What advice would you like to leave the audience for any person who is listening? Because I can't say any woman, because 25% of the listeners are men, which is great.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really excited about that. What advice would you give a man or a woman, mother or father, I guess, about raising children as a single parent? What kind of advice would you give them? I guess in as far as if it seems like it's a challenging experience that they're going through, what words of wisdom can you share?
I'll start. The thing is that when they're in your house, you are parenting, and not to try to be their best friend. You want to listen to them. You want to you want to encourage them, and you want to build them up so they'll be ready to go out. But you are parenting. So and there is no you don't want to be to the point where you're allowing them, because see, they're trying to form their attitudes, they're trying to form their ways, and you need to be the guide. So when they're saying something out of line, you need to let them know. When they're going out of line, you need to let them know, and let them know what your limitations are, because they're in your house. You got to know who you are as well, because when you're not confident, they see that. Children are more, they can see transparency in parents or whoever they're around. They can see it more than an adult can. They see that you are not confident in who you are. They see that you're not consistent in who they are. They're looking for consistency. They're looking for your love. Nothing can stop the love that you want to always give them love. You want to always cherish them and let them know that they're important. You let them know that the sky's the limit for them. There is nothing, no limitation. Don't you let whatever the circumstance situation is, you don't let them sit there and think that this is all they have. No, you expose them to everything. So those are my points. Be confident in who you are. Expose your children to a lot of different things because they only know as much as you allow them to know. And then also, you have your limitations, you have your boundaries, and you love them through it. Love is not letting them do anything. Love is directing them in life to be honorable to others and to love. So I would give those pointers for your children.
Okay. What about you, Dee?
I'm gonna piggyback off of what Wendy said. You need that example. Let them know that you are the parent, especially, in my situation where, Kia, she would live between two homes. She'll go and stay with her dad a couple days or whatever. Then she'll come back to me. But, certain things that he may allow her to do that I didn't allow her to do, but she knew because I set the standard where when you're back under my roof, you're going by what I say, because I'm the guardian, I'm the primary parent, and thankfully we really didn't have any issues with that, because she knew at an early age, mama didn't play, so, let them know who the parent is, who you are the parent. And like Wendy was saying, as we navigate, begin to show them that they are somebody, you don't ever have to answer to something that that you're not. Don't ever allow someone to validate you when you know who you are. You already know, who you are. So if somebody comes and says something other than what you know, it's not true because you're standing on who you already know. And most of all, prayer, pray, 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 pray every day, allow God to instruct you wherever you need to go. Sometimes it may not feel comfortable, especially when he's leading the way. Sometimes it may not feel comfortable to us because we're comfortable doing things our way, and sometimes when we do things our way, we may be making a mess of things. So pray and allow God to acknowledge your ways in anything that you do, because children, like they say, it takes a village. It definitely takes a village to raise children this day. And, I thank God for my village. I thank God for my family. Even if they weren't family, but they helped along the way, I'm thankful for them. So even if someone that wants to tell you, hey, you may want to do this, try not to take offense to it, just, glean from whatever they're trying to say. Like my pastor always say, eat the meat, but throw away the bone, just take it and, and try to apply it, but those are my points. But number one thing is pray. Prayer changes everything. So
Ladies, I think that is great advice to give to our listening and viewing audience. I just want to thank you all so very much for agreeing to share your story. I really appreciate it. I think that you guys have shared some really good points. And I am just so proud of you all.
You too.
You too, girl.
But proud of the children.
And the family.
Yes, I'm proud of the children that you all have raised. Just we are truly blessed.
Amen.
That's all I can say, because
Amen.
when you look at just what's going on in the world today and some of the challenges that families experience, with their children, I thank God every day.
Amen.
That,
I add this too, not to cut you off, but a lot of times, a lot of people be like, they're asking me, what kind of family do you come from? Y'all seem like the perfect family. I'm like, we're not perfect, because we have our flaws too. But I do believe our grandparents, they set the foundation. And that foundation was love, and that's all we know. Once that foundation is set, we build from it. So I'm just thankful that the foundation that our grandparents and great grandparents, those that came before us, the foundation that they laid, we're continuing to do it today. And our goal is to instill it in our children so that when we get older, I'm not old yet, but it's going to come a time, we turn 80, 90 years old, and then we look back at our children. That's the reward that we'll see, that our children is continuing the legacy that was left behind. So, yeah. So
I'm definitely blessed to be a part of this family and to know that I've got some wonderful cousins who are doing some great things and have some wonderful children. So thank you, both of you, for being an example for me too, because I'm telling you, Dee, I'm still going to be striving and working on that.
You know how to
I'm
call
gonna
me.
pray for you,
know.
Aginah.
Yes, please.
It can be done. It can be done.
Pray for me, for real.
I got you.
If you all only knew.
We'll do another Zoom another day.
Yeah, that's another day.
That's another Zoom.
Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this episode of Light It Up. I hope you enjoyed being able to see some of my family, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation. So thank you so much for tuning in this week, and make sure you tune in next week for another very interesting guest. We're going to continue the conversation with some moms who are doing some extraordinary things. So until next time, remember to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.